Don't mind me just nursing my Berserk hangover. Hey, it's Romania Black. No, I'm actually not hungover from Wine Chan in the last episode. Trust me, if I was hungover, you would not see me on screen. But we're on episode 6 of Berserk, and yeah, I just had to go ahead and watch ahead, y'all, because the last episode ended with that weird Knight Boscone who kind of looks similar to the knight that's working with the King of the Midlands, only he has a wig on. I'm like, are they the same person? Are they two different people that are just animated similarly? We learned Judo's name, and we had that very cryptic ending where Griffith is holding the behelit in his hand, being like, I guess this is the thing we have to do for me to rule the world, and just charges into this heavily fortified, seemingly impossible to break through fortress of a castle. So I'm like, what are we gonna do? But this is the important mission that the King of the Midlands has bestowed upon this newly knighted Griffith, who is definitely moving up the ladder on his way to kinghood. So yeah, and then we have our threesome, our trio of Casca and Guts and Griffith and their whole interactions. Yeah, there's a lot going on, and Rickard's still around. Corcus still wants to kill Guts. It's just, last episode was a really good setup episode. Now I'm like, okay, we've set things up. We've got Adon, the weird, like, self-indulgent, self-centered knight that works for the Tudor realm. We've set up a lot of things, and I feel like now I want to see how those things that we've set up are paid off somehow in part in this episode. So yeah, so that's basically what I'm looking forward to the most. But it's so frustrating because as I'm recording this, we're barely getting started on YouTube and Patreon with y'all seeing my reactions, and people are like, can we post fan art? And I'm like, I'm afraid that's going to spoil because people don't know where I'm at in the series. And I'm like, I don't want things to get spoiled, but in the same vein, I can't wait to see fan art for the show and then get to the manga and all of that. So it's going to be a very exciting time. But as always, please no spoilers. I'm really enjoying this series. I like the changes we've seen in Guts so far. Like, he's grown up a little bit. He's not, a young little rebel rouser like he was back in episodes 2 and 3. He's matured. He cares about the people that are surrounding him. He doesn't know what to do with Casca, but then again, Casca doesn't know what to do with him. So they're on mutual playing field as far as that's concerned. And as far as Griffith goes, he has them dancing in the palm of his hand. And I freaking love Griffith. If he turns out to be the worst villain ever, I'm like, I love a heel turn into Shakespearean villain territory. So if that's where we're going with this character, I can't wait. But if it ends up being like a big misunderstanding, I can't wait either. It's just like this. We know so much from that first episode. It built so much up in terms of now we're trying to figure out how we got there, that it has me asking questions and thinking about things and wondering what we're going to do with all these characters in these scenarios. And it's very exciting. So, but that's where we are at right now. So we're not going to waste any more time. We're going to dive right in and just see what we get, y'all. But I'm excited. I hope you all are too. So we're going to start episode 6 of Berserk. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. And let's make sure my sound is up. It is. And let's go. So episode 5, I was like, okay, we've slowed down a little bit and did like a little setup episode, and that'll be that. And then this episode decided to crank it up to 100 because what the hell? Oh my God, Zodd, the immortal. Oh, this episode was insane. This episode was so batshit insane, and we finally got some supernatural elements. So yeah, because the very first episode has the Nosferatu looking Thief Lord, as I called him, turning into everyone's just away, turning into a snake monster. So that was a supernatural element. I'm like, okay, well, since episode 1, we've really gotten no supernatural elements whatsoever. So I'm like, so are we going to go back to that at some point? And then we do in this episode with Zodd. So interesting. So my question is wondering, like did Zodd knew about what the eggs were. He knew about the egg of the king. And this one had this was a crimson one that had a specific body part attached to it. So I'm so curious. But we don't know what Zodd's deal was. Did Zodd make, like, did he end up getting a brand kind of like what Guts has, and that's made him immortal? Did he eat one of the behelits? We don't know. I doubt it. But how did he become immortal? So we have questions, right? So obviously we have questions on here about many things. So we have questions that we're going to put here with Zodd and the others, and then we're also going to have on here the stuff about Griffith. So Griffith and the behelit. So we're going to put Griffith and the behelit. Yep. And then where we go to from here, and then we're going to have the whole kit and caboodle with Guts and Casca. Oh my God. I was like, oh no. I was like, Casca, don't get mad. But then as the ED was rolling, I was like, it's kind of Guts' fault. Because he rushed in, right? He couldn't be patient and wait on Griffith. He couldn't do that. And we'll talk about that in this episode. And of course, she's mad because she's like, I have told you how many times now to follow Griffith's orders. He has a plan and you didn't do it. And now I'm sure Griffith is fine. Griffith becomes king, so he'll be fine. But Casca and him may have some turmoil in their relationship to go about with this, because now she's like, what the fudge, Guts? Like, why can't we have nice things? That's basically her at the end of this episode. Why can't we have nice things? So I think it's very fascinating that the behelit, the little, and it's specifically the crimson one that is in the opening, that one right there, the Hand of God. And that was the name of one of the earlier episodes, was the Hand of God. And it was the episode where Guts was enlisted by Griffith. Yep, it was episode 3, wasn't it? The Hand of God. Either it was episode 3 or 4, one of the two, that it was titled that. Yep. No, it was 3 was First Battle, so episode 4 was the Hand of God. It's weird. That was just 2 episodes ago, but so much has happened that it's hard for me to remember sometimes the names of the episodes, because like so much has happened. These episodes are so dense. There's so much going on that I'm like, wait, what are we doing? So yeah. Hand of God was episode 4 when we first saw the behelit. Yeah, when we saw it on him and he explained that he got it from the fortune teller. Bullshit. I don't think so. So I want to know at this point, the behelit. So questions that we have, I'm going to say the behelit and Griffith and the origin story. Because, yeah, I have a feeling that because Guts is pretty simple, and he's going to bring it up to Griffith whenever Griffith recovers and be like, hey, that weird, scary monster reacted to your behelit, and he freaked out and left. And he has never seen the need to freak out before this happened, so what's up with that? And I'm sure Griffith will give him some kind of answer, but I don't know. The whole fortune teller story about where he got it from, if that's true, and Griffith just got it for some random fortune teller woman that told him about it, I would think Griffith's a little naive, because, I mean, doesn't that seem a little too good to be true? Why would you be so dependent on that? But if there's more to it, if it was a fortune teller, but she was like the fortune teller of a king or something, or is tied to something more powerful, then is Griffith telling partial truths when he talks to Guts? Is he not spilling all of the beans, right? That's the question that we don't know about. He does seem concerned when they all are about to go raid this castle, and he grabs the behelit and holds on to it. So another question is, did Griffith know about Zodd before they went in there? I want to say he didn't. Because he sent Guts charging in head first. He likes Guts. So, I mean, he risked his life to go save him. So if he liked him, why would he send him in knowing that was the thing? But was Griffith in a position where he couldn't say everything he knew because they were tasked with this job to go and raid the castle, right? So here's the crazy thing, right? So the raiding of the castle, I will put on here. I'm assuming, did the tutor general and the Knight of the Midlands and the court, I'm just going to put all of them because they're all freaking suspicious, Did they know Zodd was there? Did they know Zodd was there when they sent Griffith and their men over there? Were they trying to get rid of him? Now, see, I think there's a possible distinction between what happened. I think maybe the king of the Midlands didn't know about Zodd. Maybe the king of the Midlands just thought it was occupied. He wanted Griffith and his men to go in and take him out and get the castle back in their territory. Like, maybe that was it. I don't know if because, I mean, it would be kind of stupid for the king of the Midlands. He just got this entire, like, army of mercenaries that have been helping him win victory after victory. He just got them in his clutches, essentially. Why would he go send them to their death? That seems like a bad idea. That doesn't seem strategically good at all. But the Red-Headed Knight and Humpty Dumpty, if they both are like, we got to get rid of these mercenaries, they're throwing a kink in our whole plan. Let's send them to the castle with Zodd. Then he'll get rid of them and we can just smooth sailings back to the way things were. Or if they figured out which castle they were going to and they contacted Zodd and somehow find a way to send him over there, maybe if they were like, hey, we're going to send you to this place that has a lot of... And you'd think, like, well, how would you persuade someone like Zodd to go anywhere? He seems like he'd just do whatever he wants. But if they relayed news to him that, like, hey, this big army is coming to this castle that will put up a really good fight if you want to show up. He's been battling for 300 years. He'd probably be like, I got nothing else to do. Sure. He probably wouldn't be that hard to persuade. So, yeah, I think that the knight and Humpty Dumpty knew that Zodd either was there or was going to be there. The king did not. But they were totally fine with sending Griffith and his men there because they're like, we'll just kill him off now and then go back to the status quo of the way things were, and then we don't have to worry about it. And then, lo and behold, because I'm sure that they don't know about the behelit that Griffith has, that seems like he keeps it close to the vest. It just so happens that Guts knows about it and the monster knew about it too. But he sent him in, right? We could pass this OP. And then I like that their flag has the blue griffin on it, right? And they're all sitting there waiting to do. What's interesting here is Judo is suspicious to me. Judo is still suspicious to me, and it might be a total red herring. I might be way off base. There may be no reason for me to suspect him at all. It's just me building up my own suspicions, and I'm fine with that. But there's a shot here where Judo's positioned. He's looking at Griffith in this one shot, just like, what are you thinking? What are we going to do? As this, like, thunder and lightning is, like, all around them. And we're just waiting to see what will happen next. And that's when the messenger comes and says the raiders are, what did he say here? He shows up, we've successfully brought the castle under control. So, and then the castle's commander, we haven't reached him yet. So yeah, here's the thing. With the castle's commander, and I guess we'll put this over, I guess we don't need to write it on whiteboard, Coon, but the whole thing was they got to the castle pretty easily, got it under control, but they can't find the commander, and Guts and them are laying siege to the castle, but this one guy's a big problem. So it was a trap. Yeah, the whole thing was a trap. There may have never even been a commander there, right? They just had some guards there to, like, make it look like a front. And Griffith's like, wait, what's going on? This one immensely powerful soldier with the enemy. We can't clear a path. And Casca's like, only one. Now, of course, Corcus is like, one soldier? Like, how weak can Guts get? I'm like, dude, Corcus is mildly aggravating because Corcus is like the bare bones, like, mentality where he's just like, Guts is losing one soldier? Well, Guts must be weak. And I'm like, dude, you know that's not the case. And Casca immediately picks up that this is something bad happening because there's only one. And he's like, what a pathetic commander. And then she looks to Griffith, who's like, well, this isn't good. What is this all about? And she's just trying to figure out, like, well, what happens? And that's when Judo brings up Zodd. Okay, Judo. Of all things that he brings up, Judo brings up Zodd. Why? Like, I get that there's urban legends and everything, but of all soldiers that could be causing them problems, the first one that you come up with is that one? That seems, I don't know, like I guess it's just convenient for the plot that Judo randomly knows about this legendary, famed, immortal soldier that everybody else seems to forget until he brings up the rumors again. It just seems to come out of nowhere, and it seems a little suspicious. But maybe it's just a plot thing. Maybe it's just a weird plot element. Because Griffith just kind of stares at me. It's like it's something I heard about before we joined the war effort. So he just randomly heard about it, and this is what he just happened to remember. Now, Rickert seems to know a lot more about Zodd. He's like, oh, people worship as the god. Rickert like opens up an encyclopedia and looks up like the Zodd insert, and it's like, oh, people worship him as the god of battle and everything. And I'm like, Rickert knows all this stuff. But he's like, Nosferatu Zodd sometimes fights among the enemy lines. Yeah. And I was thinking Nosferatu was like dealing with the Thief Lord, but no. And as soon as they say Zodd the Immortal, everybody's like, what? What is this? Have we heard about that? Pippin hasn't. And I like that Rickert is so, like, precious, but he's literally, like, a walking correction. Where he's like, Mr. Pippin, don't you know about Zodd the Immortal? He's called the God of Battle. And he's like, what? He's like, Zodd the Immortal, he's a well-known legendary fighter among mercenaries. Yep. They say he's taken the heads of hundreds or thousands in battle, which if he's been alive for 300 years, probably... That's why that's not the only reason why he's feared. And yeah, that sword's ridiculous. It says that he's sometimes returned to battle after being killed in another one. Yeah, so he's literally, when they first showed us that image of him, I was like, oh, he won't be that monstrous. But then he is. But then he is, right? Zodd's from Superman, right? Zodd is from Superman. That's what I was like. I was trying to figure out. I was like, where have I heard the name Zodd before? It's from Superman. That's like the enemy. It's like one of the other Kryptonians that is with Superman. Yep, Zodd is him. Okay, that was where I was like, it was going to drive me crazy if I didn't think of where he was from. So they say 100 years, but we know it's actually like 300. And that's why he's called Zodd the Immortal. And then Quarkus is like, oh, give me a break. You can't take that fairy tale seriously, can you? And he says, Ricky boy. So, okay, we establish here that Quarkus and Rickert, they have a very close bond. So my theory about Quarkus kind of bringing in Rickert, I think is true, because he's the only one that so far has given him, like, a nickname. And then Rickert's like, well, as a matter of fact... I freaking love when Rickert gets, like, little bits of savage moments. Like, when he's like, well, as a matter of fact, sir, let me go get the manager and tell you about it. They worship Zodd as the god of battle. And Quarkus is like, fine. And Casca's like, can we do something instead of listen to this? And Griffith seems kind of torn, because Griffith's like, how do we deal with this? If we're dealing with something supernatural, we have to be delicate, because I feel like Griffith is trying to figure out a way to deal with the situation as delicately as he can, because I feel like Griffith has some hidden power, but he doesn't want to show it, right? He doesn't want anybody to see or know about it. But I could be wrong. Maybe Griffith doesn't realize how maybe the big question here, we'll tie this up about this with Griffith knowing about Zodd, is does Griffith know the overall power of the behelit? Does he know? Because we saw that the Thief Lord had a behelit, and we don't know if Guts smashed it or took it with him. But the Thief Lord had one, and he could turn into this giant snake monster. Is Griffith going to be able to turn into like a big white bird? I want Griffith to become Birdman and be able to like fight. I was honestly expecting it. I thought what was going to happen was they were going to get in the cave. As soon as Griffith said, I'll go in alone to save Guts, what I thought was going to happen was that we were going to find out that Zodd had a behelit too, just a different color, and that that's what enabled Zodd to turn into the monster and be immortal. I thought that Griffith, like Guts was going to get knocked unconscious against the wall or something, and then nobody else would see it, but Griffith would become this like big bluish white hawk monster and would fight Zodd and kill him, and then turn back into Griffith and be like, oh, I fought him. And then that was going to be it. That's what I thought was going to happen. Nope, that's not what happened at all. But yeah, and so we see like the castle with all the fires and everything. There's all the men going back and forth, and we cut to like all the troops. The other soldiers are dead, but then they're trying to hold Guts back from going in, because Guts is like, my men are in there. And he's like, no, I like that we have the one guy. Oh, I hope they say his name because I forget it. He's like, we can't let our commander go in alone. And he says, don't touch me. That phrase, again, we have the phrase, don't touch me or him. That phrase comes back in this episode with a vengeance. Because, yeah, Guts is like, stay off of me and let me go. And he's like, well, just wait. We should wait a little bit more. And, man, Guts' face where he's like, just like, got his like bare teeth, like his canines out, where he's like, don't be a baka, let me go. Almost, it's been 2 hours since I sent out 50 of my soldiers. So yeah, he's like, I've sent 50 soldiers in 2 hours ago, and they're not coming back, so I need to go in while... And he's basically been waiting this whole time. Nothing's happening, so he's like, now I gotta go in. He's getting impatient. And the one guy that's holding his back, he says, I can't leave them. So again, that's a really big thing, is that Guts did not want to abandon his men. He didn't want to abandon his men. He knew something was wrong because they'd been there for 2 hours. So he's like, now I need to go in. I like there's like 3 men trying to hold him back. And the one guy says, well, ask Griffith for reinforcements. And he's like, do it if you dare. I like that he just grabs the man by the jaw and holds him up. But I'll kill you. One soldier has nailed down 500 of our raiders. Which is, yes, a lot. Yeah, quite a bit. He's like, this is a problem. I mean, logistically, it's a nightmare, because even though Griffith and Guts and them all get out of there, they've lost 500 men. That's insane. That's a lot. That's a big old dent in their army that they've been growing all this time. 500 men is a lot. And so, I mean, they had 500 at the very start of the series, remember? Because they were going up against 1,000. They're like, we have 500, they have 1,000. Obviously, they've got more men since then, but still, they've lost 500 men. It's a big dent. I'm assuming next episode we'll find out exactly how big the dent is, but that's a lot. Losing 500 is a lot. And so that's not going to be easy to work your way back from, right? We can't move forward like this. And then he says it's humiliating, which Guts feels like it makes him inadequate, that he wasn't able to do his job, right? He's not a man because he couldn't defeat the monster. And that's when Delos comes. I like this guy, Delos. They're like, it's Delos. Like, we should know who he is. Like, we shouldn't have known him all along. But he's literally a messenger character. He's literally to show up and die, right? And it's so creepy. Him reaching for Guts, like with the bloody hand and everything. And Guts, y'all, I could take screen cap after screen cap of Guts's expressions. Like the emotion in his face in this episode was absolutely amazing. It was so well done. But yeah, because you know that as Delos is like creepily walking towards him, it reminds him of the nightmare he has of the corpses walking towards him too. It's just like the living embodiment of it. He's like, Delos. And then he literally just shows up, says Zodd's name, and dies. And that's literally it. And Guts is like, I don't know who this is. And they're like, so that rumor was true after all. Like, the soldiers know about it. We're in big trouble. This is not good. And he's like, Commander, we should not go in there. And then he goes. He's like, I'm going. And now see, at this point, this is where Casca gets mad at him, right? They're like, wait a minute, Commander, let's just wait. And he says, stay back. Make sure no one follows me. I'm going to settle this alone. And that's the thing. I love that shot of him going into the cavern. It's all like shadowy. So Guts, he wants to settle the fight alone. Whereas Casca said to wait and have faith in Griffith. So there's the ideologies between them are all, like, Griffith clearly is the mastermind thinking of all the plans. But the difference between Casca and Guts is that Casca very much, she is hanging off of Griffith's every word, being like, if Griffith tells me to do something, I'm going to do it. If he says wait, I'm going to wait. And she is loyal to a fault, that she will not stray from the path at all, no matter what. Guts is loyal to Griffith, sure. But Guts is also kind of like, if I see an opportunity to take care of it myself, I'm going to go take care of it myself, and Griffith can get mad at me later, but he won't, you know? So Guts is very much like, I'm going to rely on me, but I do have faith in Griffith. But in this case, this relying on me part, as far as Casca is concerned, it nearly gets Griffith killed. Now, Griffith is the reason that they're saved, but Casca's mad because Griffith nearly died in the process of getting them saved. So this whole like walk of shame down this hallway was creepy as hell. And Guts's face, like just seeing all of his soldiers just dead in the hallway. And that's something too. It's not just seeing dead people on the battlefield, because Guts has been used to that for years. It's the fact that it's his men and all of them are dead because he sent them in. And that weighs on Guts. You know that Guts is thinking, I sent all these men in. It's my fault that they're dead. I didn't go in myself. Maybe I could have prevented this. So I'm hoping that next week when we have this confrontation, you know we will, between Casca and Guts, my hope is that Guts tells her that he's like, hey, it's my fault they're dead. I feel this responsibility. I just wanted to take care of it myself. And I'm sure she's still going to be pissed at him, but I hope that we as the audience can tell that Guts feels a certain way about everything going down. But I feel like he doesn't communicate that with anyone, especially Casca, who needs to hear it. So I hope that happens. But yeah, just the expression on his face. Oh my God. And just him walking through the dead, and then he charges in, and it's just like a nightmare. There's just dead bodies everywhere. And then Zodd, this enormous, like 10-foot tall man, that's just absolutely enormous. That has like two guys skewered on his sword. And Guts just looking absolutely traumatized and angry. And then he's terrifying. He just like knocks Guts into the wall. He knocks him over and over again. I kept thinking that Guts' sword was going to break against him. I'm amazed that Guts was able to strike against Zodd. I'm amazed that even was able to happen. I was like, okay. So I thought that Guts' sword was going to break at some point during this episode several times, but he holds his own. Now the question is with Zodd, and I want to put this up here with Zodd, how did he become immortal? The way he talked, it didn't seem like he had a behelit on him or knew anything about it. And we didn't see a brand anywhere on him like what Guts has. So is it just something randomly supernatural that he just had? Was he born a demon? Is he like Guts and was born of a corpse under this ominous star? Is he Guts' real father? No. I'm joking. No, probably not. But we just don't get anything. This is the first encounter that Guts has had of something supernatural in the story, and many of the characters have had in the story. So what do we do with that? Like, this story has been very close to the vest with how it portrays supernatural things, like the Fief Lord and like Zodd. It's been very, very selective on what it tells us and shows us, and this is the first time the curtains come back a little bit. So I'm curious what we're going to get out of that, but I just don't know. But I'm excited. I love the striking animation, like the animation of Guts striking his sword against Zodd. It's so well done. It's great. It feels like out of a storybook. I can't wait to see it in the manga. It'll be great. And then we cut back to Griffith, who finally shows up. And Griffith says, the rest of you stay here and wait. And that's when I thought he was going to become like a monster himself and go rescue Guts. But Guts is the damsel in distress, which is a fun time. I'm like, Griffith's got to go rescue the damsel in distress. And of course, Casca's like, well, I don't want you to do this, but you gave an order, so I guess. And then Judo, of all people, says, I'll go with you. Again, suspicious, right? Casca doesn't offer because she's like, well, if he says stay here, I'm going to stay here, right? But he offers to go. And maybe I'm just reading into it. Maybe that's just part of Judo's character, that Judo is one that would volunteer to go in. Maybe that's just part of it, but Pippin didn't. Obviously, Corcus is not. He's a coward. Casca is loyal to a fault, so she's not going to because he said no. Rickard doesn't offer because he's probably like, I'll die. But Judo offering, it's either a character trait, and Judo's like, oh, well, I just wanted, that's just his offers to go. But we've never seen Judo offer to, like, join in the fray of battle like this before. I guess we didn't have any opportunities in the past. To me, it just strikes me as a little bit weird that Judo's like, oh yeah, I'll go with you. I'm like, what are you going to do? You just have knives. I don't know. I'm not saying that Judo wanted to go in the cave and, like, get Guts and both of them killed. I'm not saying Judo's a double agent. I'm not saying he's a Judas, but it's just so bizarre that last episode we learned his name, where there's all this shady, suspicious backstabbing being plotted. And then this episode, he's the one that offers to go with him into the scary cave with the immortal soldier. And he's the one that brought the immortal soldier up. So maybe it's all the biggest red herring in anime history, and I'm just looking too far into it. But don't confirm or deconfirm. Let me find out how loyal Judo really is myself. And I feel bad for Casca, because Casca obviously thinks at this point, Casca's like, she knows that Griffith likes Guts. Begrudgingly, she likes Griffith, but she knows that Griffith doesn't like her back that way, that he's always going to be loyal to Guts more than anybody. And so she's just like, well, son of a bitch, he's going to go get himself killed rescuing the guy that couldn't follow orders. And it's very reasonable why she would be frustrated. I also want to point out that the fire inside this catacomb of this castle is like this eerie, like unnatural, artificial green looking flame. I don't know what to do with that, but it doesn't look like a normal flame. So make that with what you will. And Zodd is very impressed by Guts. Guts, who's a huge man and looks tiny compared to Zodd. And he's impressed by Guts being able to hold his own. And he's like, but Guts is like, I can defend myself because of how big my blade is. And the moment after he says that, Zodd's like, you're only defending yourself with how big your blade is. And it becomes apparent that Zodd's had 300 years of swordsman experience to go up against people and know why they're good at what they're doing. So he reads Guts like a book. And it's like, And at this point, I was thinking, like, how could Griffith defend or help Guts unless he turned into a monster? Because his sword is tiny. It's not going to be able to do much against Zodd. So, but I'm fascinated. I want to see which sword cut off the arm. I do love this one panel. I'm going to take a photo of it, of the moment that Guts strikes and breaks the sword of Zodd. Like, that's such a great moment. I love that. It's a great time. And he stabs him in the heart. And he's like, this is the first time a human like you has pierced me. And honestly, yeah, that my body's been pierced by a human like you. Guts is like, oh shit. I love how they animate Guts as like, oh crap face. Because yeah, this is exactly how you would look if you saw someone turn into a monster. Like, they animate it so well. I'm like, that is exactly how someone would look. They would be freaked the hell out, just like him. Like, growing horns and everything. It's absolutely terrifying. But yeah, he literally becomes this big, giant, monstrous demon. You're the first to do this. Yeah, it is scary. And for this to be the first time Guts has seen this, I would be terrified too. And not only that, but he got bigger and he has a hold of the sword. So you're about to lose your sword, potentially. And then he's just going to pummel you, right? And yeah, I'm with Guts. I would be freaked out. And then we cut back and he tries to get away. And then he becomes Almine from Croco's Basketball. He's like, I found a rival worthy of my skill. I can face you now. We can fight to the death. It's like Almine, Goku. It's just, we're just going to keep fighting for eternity. And Guts is like, whoa, nobody said that. But yeah, Guts is absolutely terrified. He's like, it's been years since I felt this way again. And then he just bitch slaps the hell out of Guts and nearly knocks him out. And is just stalking towards him. The whole set piece, too, of this entire scene where they're just fighting amongst all these corpses is just, it is something else, right? It is something else. And then, luckily, I'm glad that Griffith doesn't just show up by himself. The moment he had guts like this and was going to tear him apart like a rag doll, I was like in my head going, okay, we know that this doesn't happen. We know that, but here's the thing, right? Okay, here's my thing. This is what makes me think about the stakes of the story and where we get to, because we know that Guts ends up with this brand that gets him involved with some supernatural stuff, right? My thinking at this point, when Zodd has him like this and is going to rip him apart, my thing was, I instantly thought, okay, what if Guts gets in a situation where he gets like a mortal wound inflicted upon him, and the only way for him to survive is for him to make this deal with the devil and get the brand. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think either Griffith's going to betray him. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Either Griffith is going to betray him, or he's going to get separated from Griffith and get injured. He's going to be mortally wounded, and then he's going to make a deal with the devil to get the brand, to get the power to stay alive, but there's going to be a cost, and we know the cost from episode 1. So I feel like that's going to happen. So when he was about to get ripped apart in half, I'm like, I didn't think now was the time, but then that's when Griffith shows up. That's when he shows up with the arrows. I love that all the guys there are realistically freaked out, but Griffith just looks kind of disturbed, like, I like that Griffith looks, his skin kind of has like this pale blue tone to it, and he looks not only pissed, he's like, hey monster, that's my boyfriend, put him down, like, I came to rescue him, you monster, you know. And then of course Guts looks over to Griffith like, why did you come? I'm like, you damsels in distress. And then Griffith tells him to, like, I'm glad that he tells him to fire. And then Griffith says that they all need to get out of there. He's like, I won't forgive you for interrupting our battle. And Guts tells Griffith to run away. He tells him to get out of there. And Griffith is like, oh, I love that shot again of the monster, like, overlooking Griffith and his soldiers. And Griffith is in this, like, white light, like a beautiful snowy hawk. And he's like, okay, you guys get out of here, and I'm gonna stay. Again, I really thought that Guts was gonna get knocked out and Griffith was gonna turn into a monster. Can Griffith turn into a monster because of the behelit? That's a question. Can Griffith be a monster? That is the question. We don't know the answer to said question, but that's the big question. We cut back to everybody else, and for a second I thought that Rickert was on the same horse as Pippin and was like in Pippin's lap, and I thought that was really cute for a second, but no, he has his own horse. They each have their own horse. And so I like Rickert's like, it's not possible that those two were killed. They're the main protagonists. I freaking love Rickert. I don't want him to die. I love him. I'm going to say that every episode. And Pippin's like, it's taking too long. And so then Judo's like, okay, Casca, you're third in command. What do we do? Do we sit here and wait? And she's like, we sit here and wait. And then whenever Judo says, aren't you worried about them? Of course she is. That's all she thinks about. But she wants to trust Griffith, that Griffith has a plan and that they're going to come through. She wants to have that trust in Griffith. And that's another reason why she gets pissed off at Guts at the very end. She's like, because she says, you know, at the end, she's thinking Guts made her question and break faith with Griffith. She's like, I have always trusted Griffith and obeyed his orders no matter what. And I didn't for this one time, and it's because you made me freak out so much about him. I had to question whether or not he was going to be okay. So yeah, again, she is rightfully justified to be pissed off and mad at Guts because he went in and didn't follow orders. But yeah, God, he just destroys people left and right. In that one shot when you freeze it, he almost looks like the killer rabbit from Monty Python. He's a killer! Oh, it's just a little wee bunny. Just blood and guts everywhere. And literally guts everywhere. So that's when Griffith tells them to retreat immediately. I want to point out, as I take a still shot of this, the animators had all this time to animate all this blood and guts, but they gave like a little glimmer of lip gloss sheen on Griffith's lips. I I feel like the animators at Mappa, when they're drawing Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen, they put the little glimmer and gloss on his lips. They're like, what? They did it with Griffith? How did these people have lip balm in medieval times? I don't know. But then Griffith's like, I'm going to take him head on. God, I love the fact that he runs up to Guts' side. And he's like, and Guts is like, you're such a fool. Why did you come? And he's like, well, we can complain after we escape. And he's like, but why? He's like, why have things come to this? I feel like Griffith's like, get a hold of yourself, dude. He says this look on his face like, come on, man. But again, they look so different there. And I'm also amazed that Griffith decided for them to work together against his eyes kind of flicker there when he's like, why have things come to this? Like his eyes kind of flicker. I wondered at the beginning if Zodd had a behelit, and if two people have behelits that say they're both going to rule the world, do they cancel each other out? Do they fight over who has more power? How does that work? Is it whoever's consumed more flesh and blood? I mean, because the Thief Lord has a behelit, so what's the deal? Like, what happens if two people with behelits come face to face? And I wonder if what Guts says there, because you see Griffith's eyes like flicker for a second. I don't think it's just an animation thing. So I wonder if what Guts said got Griffith thinking about, why did things come to this? Everything's worked out in our favor in the past. So why now? And I think it has something to do with all this going on up here. So yeah, so they decide to fight together side by side. And he's like, where are you going? I can still hear your heartbeat. I'm like, that frame of both of them looking up is just, there's so many good shots of Griffith and Guts in this episode. It's so great. You have to fight with me until your body is torn apart. And the two of them were like, okay. He's like, can you move? He's like, well, we'll be killed if I don't. So it's not the fact that he wants to move. He's just like, we have no choice. We're going to die otherwise. And he's like, okay, then you attack from the right and I'll attack from the left. Let's go. And so, okay, he said, you attack from the right, I'll attack from the left. They both, like, took their swords and went at the same time. Okay. So, the sword that cut, Griffith cut off the hand with his sword. Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty freaky that he was able to do that. Huh. So Griffith's little tiny sword that he has, I guess it's not tiny, but his sword was able to cut off Zodd's arm. Okay. I'm just going to put it there. Again, Griffith's sword. Did the behelit make it stronger? Yeah, because I feel like that's one reason why Zodd was like, oh, let's get out of here, is when his arm got cut off, the fact that it was Griffith's sword, I'm like, he probably was like, oh my god, you have the behelit, it's going to make you stronger and give you favorable odds over the situation, so I'm not going to stay and put my life at risk. I'm going to leave before this supernatural shit gets real. Because, yeah, he loses the arm there. That's so fascinating. Yes, okay. And then the arm falls, and then, of course, Guts, like, he goes around, and he takes the arm and starts hitting things. Like, he knocks, he's like, we have to spring towards the exit. And then he takes his tail catches Griffith, okay, and shoots him against the beam. And of course, Guts screaming out for Griffith. I feel like Guts would not scream out for anybody like he does Griffith. I'm just saying, bros, man, just ultimate bros. But he has the behelit on the string, and he calls out his name, but Griffith's been slammed up against and knocked out against the pillar. I can't, it seems like something out of a B movie that Zodd just bitch slaps Guts with the amputated arm. It's absolutely hilarious. And then he's able to reattach the arms. But he says, the egg of the king. He sees it, and he says, that cannot be. And then he says, a boy like him possesses the crimson behelit of the god hand. Okay, So, a boy possessing the crimson behelit of the God Hand. Okay, so I talked about this at the beginning of the episode, but seeing it re-said here, I don't think the God Hand, I don't think there's multiple body parts. I think the God Hand is a thing. The God Hand is the thing we saw at the very beginning holding the egg. It was that, right? So the God Hand is a creature, an entity, a god, whatever, but it is something. And it is the crimson behelit. So I'm thinking that the God Hand is not necessarily the body part of a whole. It's just that is the whole thing that's just called the God Hand. It'd be kind of creepy if it was like Twin Peaks and it was just like a hand. It was like Thing from Family Matters and it just holds, if it was this all-powerful hand. If it was like the master hand in Super Smash Brothers that like is the final boss, is the master hand going after you. That would be really cool. I would like that. I would like it if it was like if it was just this giant hand that was this entity. I don't know what to do with that. But apparently he's like, how does he possess the crimson behelit? So that means there's multiple colors. There's a rainbow of behelits. We know that the Thief Lord had like an olive colored one or a green one. So do we think that they are how many? Are there 7 perhaps to tie to like the 7 deadly sins? Because you have like, I mean, color wise, would that match up? You have red, orange, yellow, blue, green, purple, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, let's say pink. So you'd have 7 there, and you have 7 deadly sins. Maybe. I feel like 7's a good number, so what if you had 7 of them? Okay, and maybe the whole point is that Guts is going to go on a quest to destroy all the behelits, and then prevent, them from possibly taking over the world. Who knows? But yeah, Zodd freaking out about this is a sign that whatever Griffith has, either Griffith knows the level of power this behelit has and is okay with it, or Griffith was naive and doesn't know the power that he has. And I don't think it's the latter. I think Griffith knows the power he possesses, but maybe not. Maybe he's naive and doesn't realize it. And Guts is just like blinking there like, what? Why is this stopping the fight? I thought it was like a creepy weird thing. Why is this a big deal? And Zodd's just like, oh hell no, we're not gonna. He's like, never mind. And he just like kind of grits his teeth and is just like, it's like he can't fight it. He goes, I see. So that's the ploy. Oh, and that's when he like busts a hole so he can escape. So the question that Zodd is, did he realize that the tutors want the behelit or Griffith dead because of it? I feel like in that moment Zodd realized, oh, this is why I was summoned here. This is why they asked me to come, because they want me to either kill this kid or get the behelit back to them. And he's like, oh hell no, I'm not messing with it. This thing is evil and I don't want anything to do with it. Yep. So episode 4 was called The Hand of God, and this thing is called the God Hand. At first I was like, oh, well, there's the God leg and the God torso and the God hand, but I don't think that's the case anymore. I feel like it's just the God hand is a creature or an entity or a deity itself, and maybe does it look like a hand? We don't know. Or could it be that the hand part is just a reference that it controls things? It's like a puppet master sort of situation. And maybe it could be that whoever owns the behelits or whoever's wearing them is controlled by the puppet hand. And he's like, oh no, I don't want anything to do with that. That's not good. I don't know. I'm fascinated now by the behelits and by this God hand, whatever it is. Curiouser and curiouser. But then everybody's like, what's going on? And that's when she's like, Corcus is like, what was that? And they're like, Commander, what do we do? And they're like, Griffith. I like that the one guy is thinking of Guts and Judo's thinking of Griffith, and Casca's like, son of a bitch, I'm just gonna go in. She's like, screw it, I'm gonna go. And then they all go after her. And so he carves himself a path out, Zodd does, and he tells Guts, boy, we'll suspend our duel for the time being. Unfortunately, I doubt I'll ever have another chance to fight you. Now, do we think that Zodd is going to eventually come back in the manga? I think he will. I think he'll come back in the manga at some point. But maybe not. Maybe he's just this one-time monster that's like, well, I don't know, because it could be one of two things. Zodd could either be like a recurring character that will see Guts again, but he just wants to fight Guts until one of them's dead. So what do we do with that? Or he was just this one-time character that was meant to teach Guts that there are some supernatural stuff in this world that's pretty messed up, and you need to get yourself educated, because otherwise you're going to be a sweet summer child, and sweet summer childs don't last long in this world. So you need to figure out what's going on. So, and it could be both. He could be there to introduce Guts into the supernatural world that he needs to kind of know about and get educated, and also be a recurring character that's going to come back later. I don't know how that's going to end up, but we'll see, right? But he does tell Guts some final parting words. He said, I'll give you some advice since you nearly killed me, or rather, I will foretell your doom. You and this man truly regard each other as friends. Be mindful. I love that he's basically just like, no homo to him. I'm like, really? So he gives this warning saying that if Guts and Griffith are friends, then be mindful. So he's like, if you guys are bosom buddies, I'm just saying, if you're sharing a bed, you might want to be careful about this guy, because he says, be mindful of this. As Griffith is like passed out on the ground with the behelit, and Guts is just staring at him, he says, when this man's ambition crumbles. Okay. He says, when this man's ambition crumbles. Ooh, the way he phrased that was really interesting. When this man's ambition crumbles and his wings spread out, you will be destined to face your death. You will be destined to face your death. So he says, if you guys are friends, be mindful that when his ambition crumbles, you'll be destined to face your death. That's a very interesting phrase, because one, he's like, if you're going to stick around this guy, once his ambition crumbles, then you guys are sure to die. That's such a weird thing, because normally you would think that they would say a phrase along the lines of, if you're friends with him, just remember that because he's ambitious, you could be put to your death, or because his ambitions will lead to your death. But it's the idea of his ambition crumbling that will lead to his death. Not that his ambitions are going to lead to your death, but the lack of ambition. And I'm like, that's so weird. Like, once he's without ambition, then you're going to die? What then? But here's the thing. His whole ambition is to become king, right? His ambition is to rise up the ranks of the ladder and become king. And again, if we're going to go back to like shows like Vinland Saga and stuff, like when you have a party that's attempting to get power, once they achieve that power and they've used their army, what happens to the army? They said in the last episode, in the setup, they said they would be thieves if it wasn't for war. So they would be thieves if it wouldn't be for war. So if Griffith becomes a king, if he gets what his ambition wants and then suddenly it crumbles away, he no longer has ambition to move forward, and he gets what he wants and he's at the peak of the top of the ladder, what happens then? And so I guess what Zodd is saying is that if you let Griffith become king and he gets what he wants, he will have no more use for you, and you'll become a threat to him, and he'll get rid of you. And so that's what he's warning him, which right now, we, the audience, are like, Griffith and Guts, they're best friends. They're bosom buddies. They're this close to sharing a bed. They ain't going to be enemies. But if he does get what he wants, see, the whole thing with Guts is that Guts is not someone that seems like they will fit in society. Zodd is like, you are not meant for the human world. You're not meant for human society. You're just literally this like battle incarnate like I am. And at some point, if Griffith gets what he wants, he will have no place for you in his world, because what use do you have for somebody that just is violent in battles all the time when there's no battles? So I don't know. Maybe that's what he's saying, that if Griffith gets to be king, everything's going to go awry. And maybe that's his cryptic forewarning. That's so interesting, though. So interesting. I love it. And then he just grows these wings and gets out of there. I'm like, you know, he could have used the wings before, but then underground, they're really a hassle and they're not really practical. And then he leaves and flies off, and everybody's like, what the hell? And then all Guts can say afterwards is, am I going to die? I'm like, you should ask yourself that question every day, Guts. What are you even doing? But yeah, so then he looks over to Griffith and is like, oh shit, and sees the behelit, right, that he has around his neck. And Guts is kind of like, I just love Guts' like thinking face where he's like, what do I do about this? And that's when he nearly falls, and Pippin and Rickert catch him, right? And they're like, Guts, are you okay? And he's like, yeah. And then, of course, they're like, only the two of you could have survived this. Yeah, it's a massacre. And then Corcus and Judo are there. And of course, we see Casca holding Griffith, and she looks absolutely terrified. Like she's so afraid that he's going to get hurt or that he's going to be dead. She looks absolutely petrified. And the thing about it is, we know that Guts and Casca both care about Griffith a lot, right? They're like, they only show emotion to Griffith, right? And then he tries to go over there. Like, they all look concerned. And I was expecting, like, what I thought was going to happen was that Guts was going to show up over her shoulder, and Griffith's going to be like, oh, it's Guts. And I was going to be like, what a bitch move. But that doesn't happen. Instead, also, you can see now the Michelin tire armor, I was making fun of him in last episode, is just like extra armor on top of armor. How does he run? How does he run in like all that armor? What the hell, man? And then Guts goes to like go to Griffith, and she says, don't touch Griffith, don't touch him. And poor Guts is like, oh my God, like he's never seen her be this emotional. And he's worried about Griffith, and she's like, it's your fault. You put Griffith in danger and almost got him killed. It's your fault. Oh my gosh. And her crying. Like, she's like, I love this man, and you nearly got him killed. Oh, ho, 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 ho. The plot thickens with our threesome, right? The plot thickens. Oh my God, y'all. So yeah, I don't blame Casca for being mad, because, but her and Guts are so similar. They both love Griffith so much. And she's blaming Guts for getting him involved in this. And considering the location and considering the dead bodies everywhere and how Griffith looks like he could be close to death, I don't blame her for being upset and crying. And Guts is just like, what do I do? But yeah, this whole thing with the behelit just got a lot creepier. The fact that this seemingly immortal, invincible monster saw it and took one glance at it and then was like, bye, peace out, is a little concerning. And the thing of it is, Guts is the only one that knows about it. Guts is the only one that knows what it's called, what it can do, supposedly, and knows what Zodd said. Guts is the only one that heard it. So the question is Guts going to ask Griffith about it next episode? How is Griffith going to respond? How are Casca and Griffith going to move forward? Because I feel like at this point, Casca is done with Griffith. I feel like she's like, or done with Guts, I mean. I feel like at this point, Guts and Casca are going to have a talk, but I feel like Casca's just done with Guts. She's like, you don't listen, you put people in danger, you got your men killed, you nearly got Griffith killed. She's like, I'm done. Like, I don't know how they're going to move forward from this. I don't know if she might actually go along with Corcus and be like, he's got to go. She might just, if this may be the straw that breaks the camel's back, and she's like, nope. She may at this point be like, Corcus, maybe it is a good idea to get rid of Guts because he's putting Griffith in danger. Maybe what I'm afraid of is she's going to like call him a bad omen, which is what he was called when he was with Gambino. but I don't know. I don't know if their relationship is going to be driven like completely apart and she's going to side with Corcus now. I don't know that. But again, she probably won't because Griffith's not going to want him to get killed. So what do we do? I'm just really excited. This was an amazing episode. It was so good. It was awesome. I loved it. I can't wait for episode 7 now. I'm like... And I love the way they did the title card where we have the little 5 sketches up front. Now we start with a new one. Oh, what do we do with that? And then I want to know how the court handles this now that they didn't all die. How's the court going to handle this? And what we're going to find out. So we shall see, won't we? So yeah, I'm really excited. I hope you all are too, but I'm curious to know your comments down below. Please no spoilers, hints, or clues. But I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more Berserk. Bye!